Hello, welcome back. We're going to continue our study on controls in Microsoft Visual Studio Express 2012. If you watched the previous video we just treated, we have looked at the overview properties of a form. We looked at the properties and the events that makes up a form. Now we are going to move forward and start adding some controls to the form. We are going to start by adding the text box control to the form, and we're going to look at the properties of the text box and how it is being used. In order to add the controls to the form, you can do it in several ways. Number one, you can drag it from the toolbox onto the form a stand. Also, if I delete this, I can also double click on the text from the toolbox and it will appear on the form. So it will appear at the top left corner of the form. So when you click and highlight the text box, the properties will show in the properties window here, and the name automatically assigned is text box 1 to it. So if you add another text box, you can guess that the name of the text box will be text box 2. This is the name automatically used by the Microsoft Visual Studio as the name for the text box. So let's delete this one and go forward. So if we are going to look at some of the common properties of a text box. Other properties are important, but the common ones that are used often are highlighted here. As I've said earlier with the form, the name is the most important because that is the name that the code uses to recognize the controls. So the name properties is text box 1. So often that you might want to leave it, or probably you might want to change it. Okay, you can call this using any name. Some people use the convention imported from Visual Basic 2, which is using txt as a name, or probably you can say name text box. So you can decide to use any convention, but let's go with txt name thing. That we agree with the convention of VB6. And look at it, once we have changed the name and we decide to add another text box to the form, instead of giving it text box 2, it has given assigned text box 1 to it. So it's so smart to check that this one is no longer using text box 1 as the name and is assigning text box 1 to the new text. So let's delete this. What are the common property apart from the name? All right, if we go to here, we'll check the text properties. Text property, as we have done with form, the form also have a text property, is the string that is displayed at the top of the form. Also in text box, the text property is what is written inside the text box. And as I've said, you can increase the length of the text box and you can decrease it just using this arrow, just dragging on this arrow. Also you can set it using the minimum size and the maximum size property that are here, but it's better we drag it just the way we're doing it. So if we go to the text property, you can see that it is blank. That is why there is nothing written on it. I can decide to write my name is Tunde. Excuse me, my name is Tunde, and when you see it is display on the text box, so that is the text property of the text box. So if you want to do it in code too, you can also change the text box there. You can change the properties in code. I will show you maybe as the video progresses, but what I'm just showing here is just show you the common properties of a text box. So if you want to access this property in code, just use the name dot the property. All right, just follow through, we'll be able to finish. Okay, that is the text property. Then the third one, another property I'm going to look at is the password character. So sometimes we want to use the text box as a password. For example, if I bring up a label here, don't bother about label yet, I just want to show you something, and I use username. Then I bring up another label and I call it password, which you're commonly familiar with if you use application that are password protected. I can bring up another text box in here, then I can bring up this in here. Okay, this is lovely, and if you see as I'm dragging it is snapping. It's so good that Visual Basic has made. Okay, look at this. I want to make this text box my username, or I make the down one my password, just like you have. So probably first of all, let's get rid of the name here. Okay, so if I run this, you see something close. So what you normally see when you want to log in into a system, username and password. Oh, taking some time. Good. Okay, if you're following from the previous video, this is just showing. Okay, username and password. Okay, we'll need a login button here. Okay, closing now. That is the form property. So I can bring up a button. You don't need, if you don't know this, you can just wait or watch our next video on this series, so you know everything about this button. All right, this is so familiar if you have been logging into a system, and if you want to use, this is a text box, we have called it txt name. Good, this one will rename it. Instead of using text box 1, we'll use txt password. Okay, we have that working. Okay, this txt name, this txt password. So what we want to have is, when we type name here, maybe let's run and let's see how it works. Okay, good. Okay, when I type maybe name here my Tunde, I want to type my password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 0. So the normal convention is you don't want people to see the characters in your password, so you must ensure that you mask your password with a character. That is where the property password character comes from. That's where we have this property password character. So if you go to the properties of this and you just scroll down, this one is arranged alphabetically. We look for password char, MNOP. Okay, all right, password char. The normal convention is to use a star key. So if you run the program now, instead of seeing 0 1, okay, this is Tunde, then this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. Yeah, so that is the password char. So in case you want to use the text box for a password, want to mask the text of the text box, that is what you're using. So I hope you understand that. Let's go for another property. Also, it is not compulsory you use a star. Before I forget, you can decide to use any character. Probably let's use a plus. Alright, if you use a plus, you discover that it will also use that, but people are used to using star. That is why you can decide to use 1 2 3 4 5 6 9 0. Okay, excuse me, don't know what is happening tonight. All right, let's go to the next property. Then we can change the font, you can change the font color, you can change the back color. So sometimes you want to make your work to be well arranged. So you go to font, This is the fore color, that is the color of the text that will be written. So sometimes you want to make things look sweet. Alright, then fonts, you can decide to change all the fonts. Maybe probably just change the size instead of changing anything. Probably let's say 12. Okay, or make it bold. As I change the font, you discover that the size is increasing automatically just to accommodate the new font we are changing. Then you can also check the back color and know that you are having the appropriate color for it. So all the control has this. Probably let's choose one of these. Okay, alright, we'll run it together because of our time. Then you can use enabled, disabled, multi-line. Alright, if we try to run this, okay, now you can see the difference is coming up. So don't mind my color, it may not be looking good now, but I'm not really a color guy. You can do something better with your own. So if you continue and look at enabled, enable simply means can we highlight it. For example, if I go to the enable side and I change it to, it was true before and I change it to false. Remember, I'm using the password character. When we check, you discover that you can no longer highlight that. Look at it. Enable here has been disabled. So that's the enable property. So sometimes you might need to disable the text in order not to allow user to enter incorrect data. Excuse me, just have to pause this video for a while. You're welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. So the next property is multi-line. Sometimes you want to ensure that your text box can accommodate a lot of characters and you can go to a new line. So all what you do is go to the multi-line property and just simply know that all the properties we are changing here, we can also modify it in the code, but I'm just showing you some of the important properties. And look at it, when the multi-line was forced, we only have two undo where we can adjust the size, whether you to increase or to decrease. But when you change the multi-line to true, you discover that the undo increases tremendously. So you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, just that you can undo multi-lines on the text box now. So okay, you can say Tunde is a good boy, then press enter. He is from Africa, enter. So multi-lines, this is how you achieve that using Textbox in Visual Basic. Then you can set a text to be a read only. That means you cannot type into it, only read from it. Remember, this is disabled. You can change it so that you can also use it. Enable equals to true. Okay, so that we can make use of it. All right, this is, we can write on it. If I decide to set it, this one to read only, that means you can only read what is written on the text. You cannot type anything into it. This property should be only set to false. You can change it to true. Let's see the difference here. Okay, loading now. No, I can type into this one because read only is false. But if I come here, even though the console is highlighting and I'm trying to type here, it won't accept anything because we have set it to read only. The difference between disable enable equals to false or read only equals to true is if you don't enable a control, that means you can highlight on it. But if you set it to read only, even though you can highlight on it, you cannot type anything on it. So this is another one. It is commonly used when you don't want to allow user to type any data into your text box that can crash your program. Alright, then the maximum length a text box, maximum length of character a text box can take. Yeah, you can decide to set it. There's a default value that has been set, and you can decide to change the default value. So maximum length, yes, it is the default value. You can change it, you can reduce it, you can increase it. For example, I can say I don't want my text box to take more than 5 character in length. So let's check it. I type Tunde, then nothing can add to it again. And you also make use of this to control how user enter data into your text. Or let me call this I want to type language language. It will go again. That is using the maximum length of a character, then the visible, whether it is visible or not. So if I set this visible property to false, even though it is there, you won't be able to see it. Let's run it and see. Okay, you're loading now. I know. Yeah, you can see it again because the visible has been set to false. Then you can align your text. You can make the text align to be either be center or left. The common one is left, so you can make it right. Alright, I have set this one to be right. Let me change the visible property of this one back to true. Okay, we start. Alright, I have this. Oh, okay, you can see where the console is. It's already at the right. The reason why it's not typing it, they have not changed the read-only property, but you can see that there has been a difference on where the console is now. Okay, those are the properties, common one. There are other ones, you can please go through them, check them one after the other. It can make things good. Then we have some events that Textbox can handle. There are so many of it, but the two most popular is the text change. That is what happens when a text is changing on the text box. So the text change is the most important. When you double click on it, the default event handler you get is the text change. That's where you write in handle text box name dot text change. Okay, you can just say it would, let's say let's change the color. Okay, so anytime you type anything, it will change the color. Dot text name dot font dot bold. Equal to true. Okay. Okay, I can use this. Alright, let me use dot back color equal to let me change it to, let's say, blue. Okay, alright, so anytime you type on the text box, you will change the back color to to blue. Okay, so we know that it was yellows before. Type anything, backcolor change to blue. So for each character that you type, this code will get run. So that's the text change. And the other property is underscore click. When you click it, it will show. All right, let me copy this code that we used here. Let me copy the code, pick the text box name, then click the mouse click event. Okay, we have another handler. We are clicking text box username now. Okay, just to undo the click event of the text box. Yeah, if I type anything, it changes to blue. If you click it, see, you are clicking the text box username now. So these are just the properties and some of the common events of the text box property. I hope you have enjoyed this video, even as I have. So if you have enjoyed it, please check out more of our videos. Remain blessed.